What's up, everybody out there in YouTube land? Wrath2501 here. Alright, guys. So we got some Warhammer for you. This is interesting. A major kill. He's the only one really doing much of anything. If you guys can suggest any good animated or anything Warcraft channels, please let me know in the comments. Let's see. Wait a second. That's not the video I wanted. Oh, okay. So this is called the Terrifying Khrave. So apparently this is the most powerful species in the Warhammer 40k universe, right? Alright, so let's see what he's got for us here. Alright, and go.
Today we'll go over the Khrave, how old they are, what their empire is like, why they're so goddamn powerful, and where they currently are in the setting. Let's get into it. In 40k, there was no primordial god who caused the Big Bang, at least not that we know of. A few races were faster than others out of the gates, and they were the first ones to establish some kind of dominance. The old ones, Necrontyr, Catan, and yes, the Khrave. These were some of the first races to evolve. Whilst the old ones seeded the galaxy with intelligent life, the Khrave followed in their wake, dominating and consuming these vulnerable child races to feed their own insatiable hunger. Imagine planting trees and then some asshole keeps pulling them up and eating them. Fuck the Khrave. Some people think that the Khrave were an early creation of the Old Ones, which would explain why they came before the Orcs and the Elder, as well as why they were so powerful in the ways of the Warp. But on closer inspection, this doesn't add up too well. The Old Ones always had a purpose for their creations. Even the Orcs were considered to be a last-ditch super weapon against the Necrons and the Catan. It just doesn't make sense for them to make a mega evil parasitic race that wants to rape all of creation as a side hobby. Whilst the Khrave were powerful, they were also quite cowardly. I mean, their name is literally the Khrave, a play on Craven, and they would never stand a chance against the psychic might of the Old Ones. On top of this, the Khrave grow in power as they age, and with the galaxy being so young, they hadn't yet had the chance to produce their mega multi-million-year-old Khrave that caused the Imperium so many issues. This is why they were like small parasites to the Old Ones instead of a real threat. So whilst the Old Ones clapped the Necrontyr, then got clapped in turn by the Necrons and the Catan, who then got clapped by themselves, in the absolutely asshole-tearing war in heaven, the Khrave hid in the northern fringe, striking out at vulnerable worlds but never really committing to open war against any of the significantly more powerful races in the galaxy at the time. Even with the disappearance of the Old Ones, the shattering of the Catan, and the self-induced coma of the Necrons, the Elder was still powerful enough to keep the Khrave sidelined, even though the Khrave did dominate and consume both Elder and Orc worlds during the next 60 million years when they were feeling a little bit spicy. But if each individual Khrave was more than a match for a single Orc or Elder, or 100 Orcs and Elder, then why didn't they try fight them and dominate the galaxy? Well, who's to say they didn't? We don't really know a whole lot about the 60 million years between the war in heaven and the Elder
because then that would just encourage the Orcs and they'd get real pain in the ass.
However, there is a pretty straightforward scientific answer. As the Khrave seemingly evolved naturally, if they weren't a creation of the Old Ones that is, they would follow scientific rules of evolution. A big one is that the longer you live and the more durable you are, the less offspring you need to ensure your race's survival. A Khrave is immortal and can only be killed by some serious effort by something seriously powerful. Plus the Khaves are butt-fuck ugly, so their reproductive rate would have been obscenely low, especially when you think about how unsustainable their feeding is.
They might be attracted
if there were
to
billions of Khrave, then they would have either consumed the entire galaxy and died out, or starved to death. From what we have seen in the lore, there genuinely only seems to be a few thousand of them in existence at a time. Could be even less. When mankind first spread the galaxy's cheeks and explored its forbidden depths, their technology was insanely advanced, but their knowledge of the warp was trash, mostly because psychers weren't really a thing yet. Hence, the exploration fleets that entered into Khrave territory were easy pickings for the dormant race. After easily dominating or consuming any humans they encountered, as well as catching wind of the Eldar's demise via the fuck-off psychic whiplash of Slaanesha's birth, the Khrave became emboldened, striking out and dominating world after world. The conquering was subtle. They would always lay seeds, making a world's population docile as they slowly fed on them to avoid attracting too much attention. They were still cowards after all. Sometimes it would seem as if they were driven away from a human world, only to reveal that they never truly left and had been sucking the humans dry whilst the Astartes had moved on to do other space-marine shit.
Damn,
so let's go over each of
shits,
humanity's
dude.
encounter with the Khrave and how they inevitably overcame this seemingly unovercomable force of evil. Well, funnily enough, the World Eaters were one of the first legions to overcome a Khrave incursion and even kill some of them. On Sedak 17, a handful of Khrave had dominated the local humans and had just easily repelled any attempts to retake the world, mostly because they could just easily dominate any human who tried. However, Space Marines, especially ones as insano-style as the World Eaters, cannot be fucked with by the Khrave. As such, I imagine the World Eaters just kind of Leroy Jenkins into that shit, carved their way through millions of Khrave thralls, whilst their Primarch Angron came his pants from all the bloodshed. The psychic shock of losing so many thralls so quickly and violently would have been like a punch in the dick of the Khrave, whose cowardly instincts would have kicked in as the World Eaters reached them and tore them to shreds. Going full retard berserker mode has consistently been shown as a good counter to psychic powers, and Sedak 17 was just another example of that. Dude. The next legion to face them was the Raven Guard, and this encounter was a bit inconsistent with others, but there's actually a bit of an in-law reason for this. The Khrave had dominated the world of Yggdrasil and had been harvesting the human population on it like cattle. They had actually been breeding the humans in order to have multi-generational and semi-sustainable food. When Corvus arrived, he went full Rambo mode, taking his best 2,000 Astartes and infiltrating the Khrave hive. They sabotaged, ambushed, and infiltrated, bringing battle to the Khrave and taking them unaware. Despite significant losses, the Raven Guard were able to purge the Khrave on their own turf. Now generally this would make zero sense. The Khrave are these hyper-dimensional god-tier Xenos that should have been able to pancake the Raven Guard with ease, until we look at the details. These Khrave had overindulged, overate. They were sluggish, not on guard, and hadn't fought in hundreds if not thousands of years. Also, they probably weren't super old yet, nor did they have many of the mega Primarch tier Khrave that were millions of years old. On top of that, many of the Khrave here were dormant, in hibernation, being rudely awoken by flamethrowers and power claws. They would have been groggy as fuck. From my readings, it also seems like the Raven Guard used flamethrowers, fire being one of the Khave's main weaknesses. Regardless, it was a hard-fought but decisive victory for the Imperium. However, the greatest and deadliest of Khrave incursions would come up against the might of the Dark Angels and their legendary Primarch, the Lion. This Khrave force was digging deep into human territory, led by a conclave of Super Khrave and above that, the king of the entire Khrave race. A being who was dozens of millions of years old and had enough psychic might to make Magnus blush. If he could blush, the fuckhead is red. For context, these Super Khrave are able to possess a human mortal from thousands of light years away and turn them into an Alpha Plus Psycho while they're possessed.
Really?
This makes the Khrave insanely overpowered at infiltration. The only downside is that because the connection is so strong, if the Khrave host dies, the Khrave possessing them does as well. A single Khrave can possess millions of humans at one time. However, this version of possession is weak, more like simple mind control and not like actual possession or empowerment. But mind controlling millions of people at a time is still very overpowered. The Lion could sense the Khrave, hence he directed his legion to Muspel, the world that the Khrave were currently feeding on. After thwarting them and just straight up pissing them off a number of times, the Khrave said fuck this and launched their ambush. A full third of the Dark Angel's serfs and fleet members, not including the actual Astartes themselves, came under Khrave influence and begun killing their fellow crew members and attempting to mutiny each ship. A super Khrave host was also unleashed. By possessing a normal non-psycho remembrancer, the Khrave was able to compress Dark Angels into balls of goo, make them explode from the inside out, and just kill them very easily. It took a team of elite anti-Khrave librarians wielding guns that could destroy your soul to mildly inconvenience the Khrave host. The Khrave host actually overcame and even beat these librarians. It was only until it faced the Lion and made the incredibly foolish decision to try dominate the first Primarch's mind did the Super Khrave get fucking annihilated. And this was just one of a number of Super Khrave, which are a league below the king of all Khrave. Although the Dark Angels resisted this Khrave takeover, a takeover led by only one Super Khrave, the main Khrave force soon arrived to wipe out the Dark Angels. The Imperial ships weren't able to fire upon the Khrave ships, as the Khrave were able to psychically blind the human crew members to their position. They then unleashed millions of human thralls, dozens of Khrave warriors, and even a Khrave Titan, which was like this eldritch abomination spawned into existence via a conclave of Super Khrave channeling and combining their power. The rough part is that the Dark Angels weren't able to use their own Titans, as once the Princeps would power it up, the Khrave would just possess them and turn the Titan against the First Legion. The Dark Angels are barely able to survive the onslaught, only able to hold on because they used a bunch of Dark Age of technology no-no guns that even the Emperor is hesitant to use. The Lion was able to outplay and board the Khrave kingship, facing off the Lord of all the Khrave. In a straight up fight, the King of the Khrave was more powerful. He was so old that his body had petrified, but his mind was obscene. He was able to batter around Johnson like a toy, and even penetrate deep into his mind. It was only when the Deathwing, backed up by enslaved men of iron, intervened that the Lion was able to get the upper hand and shove his sword through the King Khrave's skull. With the death of the King of the Khrave, as well as the many Khrave that died during the battle on the planet below, as well as the Khrave Titan being destroyed through massive amounts of effort, there was a massive psychic blowback that released the Khrave's control on most of their human thralls, killed even more Khrave, and shattered the core of their race's power. No other legion could have done this. The Lion outplayed the fuck out of the Khrave, like only a monster hunter could, and he still nearly lost. His angels unleashed half of their forbidden arsenal, and that only barely kept them alive. A legion without the Lion or those weapons would have been slaughtered, with maybe the exception of only the Thousand Sons. Since their defeat by the Lion, the Khrave have been pretty quiet, not doing much since the Horus Heresy. This is because the majority of their super powerful old Khrave have been killed, leaving only the younger, weaker Khrave behind. However, in the recent setting, the Khrave had become emboldened, once again attacking Imperial space and going up against Space Marines. Although they are a tough enemy of mankind, they are nothing compared to what they once were, hence their threat level is pretty low. It only takes an Astartes chapter to fight off an entire Khrave incursion these days, not an entire legion led by their Primarch. It's just another dope Xeno race that we will never get a mini for, unless I do something about it.
Okay, well, I like to hear about them fighting some of the other races, you know, like fighting the Tyranids or something like that. That'd be interesting. I mean, could they try to dominate the Tyranid hive mind? I doubt it. I doubt they could. That thing's like the most powerful psychic force in the galaxy. Even the Chaos Gods can't stand up to it. The only thing that counters it is whatever that hell that thing is that's living in the Ghoul Stars, that even Chaos is afraid of, and the Tyranids too. Anyway, that's another discussion. That was interesting. I did not know about this species. So it's like just basically another side species that's really powerful that we don't ever hear anything about in Warhammer. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Like this video, subscribe. Definitely click on the link to the original. Like and subscribe over at Major Kill's channel. And I will see you guys next time. Tune in every day for new content. Bye-bye.